Transportation Committee for January 8th, 2024. So first of all, Happy New Year to everybody and welcome back and welcome to Robert Street. And also thank you to Jenna for being here to support us here. Our first order of business is approval of the agenda. If there's no changes or additions, we can proceed. All right, seeing none, we'll move to approval of this December 11th, 2023 minutes. Did anyone have changes or additions? Seeing and hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
By Councilmember Morales, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Vento. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the minutes are approved. And now we're on to reports. Our first is MTS Director Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Happy New Year, council members. This week, several council staff are attending the Transportation Research Board, or TRB, annual meeting in Washington, D.C. We have 5 staff from MTS joining 11 staff from Metro Transit, and even TAB Chair Jim Hovland is part of the conference sessions this year. This is the premier conference for transportation research, and it attracts thousands of transportation professionals from around the world. It covers all modes with sessions and workshops addressing various topics of interest, and will feature a keynote speech from the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. So we actually, you have seen many of the items that are going to be featured at the committee at the conference by MTS staff. We are part of several sessions in the meeting, including our 2021 household survey as part of the Household Travel Survey Subcommittee. So you've heard presentations on that. Our travel behavior inventory program is also part of a multi-region poster and collaborative effort with North Carolina State University and the Puget Sound Regional Council. The Transportation Needs in Daily Life, which was a presentation you heard on a study or a process we completed last year, is being featured as both a poster session and as an invited talk. And then the Vehicle Miles Traveled Reduction Mode Shift Study, which was shared with the TPP Advisory Work Group, is featured as an invited session on a Pathways to Decarbonization session. And then finally, we're also moderating a session on the use of gender in transportation analysis. So a number of different contributions. This is just the MTS side. I'm sure it joins many that Metro Transit are participating as well. So exciting to have those sessions underway in the nation's capital. And then second, the Transportation Economic Development and Transportation Economic Development Infrastructure grant projects have been announced by Governor Walz last week. So last week, the governor announced $17.4 million for 8 construction projects in the Twin Cities and in Greater Minnesota. And so notably, a $5 million grant to the city of Waconia to assist with completion of Highway 5 Phase 2 reconstruction. $900,000 to the city of Norwood Young America to construct streets and utilities in its Tacoma West Industrial Park, which is a 60-acre industrial expansion. $2.7 million to the city of Hastings to reconstruct a segment of Highway 61, and then $3.7 million to Carver County to construct a new roundabout to improve safety and mobility at Highway 5 and County Road 11. So a number of different projects around the region complementing another set of projects around the state, but good news as this work continues. With that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right, I'll just say District 4 is very, very happy to hear all those lovely projects in Carver County. So thank you very much.
And Madam Chair, I don't have a recap of them today, but we have received the regional solicitation projects for the 2024 solicitation. And it's another long list that in fact complements some of these projects as well.
That's very good to hear. Thank you. Now we're on to Metro Transit General Manager Canderas.
Right. Madam Chair, council members, just one update from me today. I wanted to share that starting tomorrow, we're kicking off a listening session tour, really focused on our light rail lines. Chair Barber, along with Chair Zelli, and several of us from Metro Transit, Chief Morales, Deputy General Manager, CEO Brian Funk, and myself, we're going to be out there really engaging riders and listening to their feedback. Part of this is to continue to inform our safety and security action plan, but in general, we're going to be out there to listen to what people want to share with us. So we're excited to kick that off tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll report back what we hear. So that's my one update for today.
Very good. Thank you, Leslie, and I look forward to joining you. It'll be fun. Any questions or comments from council members? Councilmember Vento.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the future, Leslie, if you ever want council members to be a part of those listening sessions, let us know.
Sure.
I think some of us would be interested, so.
Definitely would.
Chair Barber, Councilmember Vento, thank you for that. And yeah, we're kind of dipping our toe in the water to see how this goes. And it's something we've looked at other transit agencies, how they've done similar outreach. So we're going to see what how it goes this week, and certainly we'll keep that in mind for the future. And I'll mention too that this is joining several activities we have underway to engage with riders, including our monthly Great Day in Transit events too, which is kind of a similar, little lower profile probably than what we've done here, really promoting them as listening sessions. But certainly we'll continue to make sure to let council members know when there are opportunities to be out on the system with us. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Additional questions, comments? All right, thank you. And we do not have a TAAC report tonight, so we're going to move on to our consent business. There are 3 items on consent. If there's no objections, I'd entertain a motion to approve the items on consent.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Morales. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the items on consent are adopted. Now we're on to our non-consent item business. The first is business item 2024-5, which is the review of the Metropolitan Airport Commission 2024 to 2030 Capital Improvement Program. We have Joe Whiting here. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and council members. Thank you. Real quick introduction to myself. My name is Joe Whiting. I am the newest aviation planner for the council as one of my many duties here, so I'll be presenting this item here tonight, and upcoming airport items as in the future as well. So thank you. So today we're here for the annual review of the Metropolitan Airports Commission's Capital Improvement Program, which is something that is again annually reviewed under requirements in state statute 473181 and 612. The council is charged with reviewing the CIP to determine a few separate items. First one is determine that the MAC's public engagement process was adequate, including providing timely notice to affected communities and holding required public hearings and public comment periods. Another item is to determine for consistency and conformance with Metropolitan Council policies, including the Transportation Policy Plan and the aviation element, and also consistency with the Regional Development Guide. Also, state statute requires the council to approve any projects which meet both a certain dollar threshold, and that's $5 million at MSP and $2 million at the reliever airports, and also meets one of 6 qualifying criteria for significant effects on the regional development, and that would be these 6 items are either a new airport in the region, a new runway at an existing airport, an extended runway or a strengthened runway at an existing airport, any sort of projects that would include passenger boarding facilities or parking facilities, which would constitute a 25% capacity increase at any airport in the region. And then finally, any land acquisition that would be required in conjunction with any of those projects. Staff conducted a review of the 2024-2030 CIP and found it to be consistent with the 2040 Regional Development Guide and conforming with the Transportation Policy Plan. And while there are a number of large projects, as you see in your list, that which do meet that dollar threshold for this year, there are no projects which also meet those other 6 criteria for significant impacts that would require council's approval. So that's not something we have to look at this year. However, looking forward to the future years, in 2025, there's possibility of two additional projects which are coming up in the pipeline. One of those is at Lake Elmo, and that'll be a modest runway lengthening project, which will go for the crosswind runway at Lake Elmo, and also another runway extension project at Air Lake in Lakeville, which is also scheduled for future improvements. And so the Lake Elmo project likely could be coming next year, and that Lakeville project probably a little further down the line, 2026 potentially. So something to look forward to coming up here is a few more projects in the reliever system. But looking at those other items, as we mentioned, the adequate public engagement process, so staff did confirm that MAC did hold a adequate engagement process, including a review of the preliminary CIP, and that was included a 60-day public comment period, and they held their public hearing for that on November 6, 2023, which provided those communities an opportunity to submit their comments and feedback to the CIP. In addition, there was, again, no project specific for approval, and that it is consistent, we have found it, with the Regional Development Guide and the Transportation Policy Plan. Also, like I mentioned, we do have Bridget Reef here with the MAC if there's any specific questions on any specific projects in the CIP. And I also mentioned that in a couple of weeks, we'll have Brian Reichs, the CEO of the MAC, here to speak to the council to kind of outline of the MAC's work over the last year and what to expect coming up in the future. We do have a few bigger items coming up, including the MSP Long-Term Comprehensive Plan, which will be coming back here in a couple months to present that, and additionally a few other potential long-term comprehensive plans as well coming up in the near future. So big time here for the MAC and a lot of work going on, so it's something that we like to just give you guys an overview of that coming up here on the 24th. So with all that said, Madam Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council finds that the Metropolitan Airports Commission had an adequate public participation process for the development and review of its 2024-2030 capital improvement program, including the preparation of an assessment of environmental effects for 2024 projects with potential environmental effects, and also that the 2024 CIP projects are in conformance with the Transportation Policy Plan and consistent with council policy as well. So.
Very good. Thank you, Joe. Questions or comments from council members? Councilmember Carter?
I just had one item. I was just wondering, the Customs and Border Protection General Aviation Facility, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Councilmember Bridget, if you wouldn't mind. We were actually just talking about that, so topical question.
It just kind of stuck out.
Madam Chair, members, my name is Bridget Reef. I'm Vice President for Planning and Development with the Metropolitan Airports Commission. And I'm sorry, can you clarify your question
The
for
question, I
St.
just
Paul?
wanted a little bit of insight into the item, Customs and Border Protection General Aviation Facility.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair and members. So we are looking at constructing a facility at the downtown airport that would provide a place for Customs and Border Protection staff to scan any of the individual flights that come into St. Paul from international destinations. Every once in a while it happens. Right now, the CBP staff will come from MSP. They'll drive over to St. Paul, and they literally operate out of a closet right now. So the proposal is to construct a facility, not very big, but meets all of their needs for the very few times that they have to screen individuals coming in at that airport.
So it doesn't mean like a change in policy or anything?
Correct, it does not.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Vento?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This isn't a question I expect an answer for tonight, but perhaps Brian could include this in his presentation to us. I'm curious as to what role MSP has in decisions regarding planes like the Alaska airline plane that had that traumatic event. According to what I think I've read, is that some of them are being grounded, but not all of them. And I'm just curious as to how are those decisions made, and how do we as a region, and I'm using we in the royal sense of everybody, make sure that we protect our region from that kind of an incident?
Madam Chair and members, so the fleets are all owned by or leased by the individual airlines, so not part of our business. That said, doesn't mean it's not part of our conversations, but we are not in a position to dictate how they manage their fleets. But I will talk to Brian about including some information about that in a couple weeks.
That would be helpful. Thank you. Madam Chair, I'd just like to make one other note. I watched the Lake Elmo public hearing that the Legislative Task Force on Metropolitan Governance conducted here a few weeks ago, and but portions of the public comments dealt with the Lake Elmo Airport. And there continues to be a lot of angst, and a lot of it's being laid at our feet as a Metropolitan Council. So I want to thank you for the public engagement, and to the extent that the public engagement can continue, once that new runway is in place, that we keep it going, I think that will be really beneficial. People in that part of the eastern region are really concerned about the noise factor and the impact on the quality of their lives. Thanks.
Madam Chair, may I comment?
Of course.
Thank you, members and Member Vento. Stemming from the construction of the run, which is open now, the MAC created an airport advisory group, similar to other advisory groups that we have at our other reliever airports. It's a group that's made up of not only airport users, but members from the community. And they get together on a frequent basis to talk about issues. They talk about number of operations, they talk about noise contour issues and things. So it's an opportunity to continue those conversations going forward, and that is our intent. So I wanted to make sure you knew that.
Great, thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. Additional questions or comments? All right, then seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2024-5.
So moved. Oh, I'm sorry.
Moved by Councilmember Cameron, seconded by Councilmember Vento. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the motion carries. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you back on the 24th. Now we're on to business item 2024-11, which is the Airport Employee Dial-A-Ride Service. We have John Harper here. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. I'm here today to bring to you a proposal that the council authorize the regional administrator to award and execute contract 23P201 with Transportation Plus Incorporated to provide airport employee dial-a-ride service in an amount not to exceed $3,165,000. This program, this airport employee dial-a-ride service, is a very small program with a relatively large impact. We started this program in 2016 as a joint effort between the Met Council, the MTS Division, and Ramsey County, looking for opportunities to connect entry-level new immigrants and folks with limited English proficiency with entry-level jobs. We looked around the region at that time and approached a number of different possibilities, and the airport employers at that time responded, and we set up this program. This program continues and has had a number of different iterations, different approaches that we've tried. So today we're landing on this approach using a taxi company to do the work for us in a multi-year contract. This program does include employer participation. As the business item states, it is designed for employees of airport-related employers. There's a participation of the employer. We really work with the employers. They say this person works for us and we would like transportation for them as an employee, and we set up that transportation. And it's really designed around the late night, early morning hours, so we can get them to the airport or from the airport one direction, and they're using regular public transit, fixed route, rail, for example, for the other direction. And so we get two trips out of one, so to speak, because we can do the trip. Plus, Caribou and Starbucks are open at 5 a.m. then for people leaving, rather than being closed for early morning flights, for example. And so it's really been a win-win. Across the time, we've had 10 different employers participating in the program. We have had 3 employers who really have been the bulk of the trips across the whole time period of the program, including HMS Host, LSG Sky Chefs, and OTG Management. And those 3 employer groups represent a host of businesses at the airport. And so if you go into Starbucks, for example, that is not run by Starbucks, that's run by one of these 3 organizations. And so it's really conglomerates for airport businesses. So that's the program. And As I mentioned, we are entering into this agreement or ask the council to authorize entering into this agreement. We did a solicitation and had 12 registered plan holders, 8 were prime proposers. We ultimately got one proposal, and the procurement department did a review to ensure that we had a competitive process and just ended up with one proposal. We reviewed that proposal and determined that it was cost competitive and that it was a best value for the council. As a matter of fact, it is the organization that's doing the work on an interim basis for us. So we propose that we enter into this 5-year agreement with the Transportation Plus Incorporated, the taxi provider, for continuation of this work. With that, I will take any questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Carter.
First of all, thank you so much. This is, I think, just really groundbreaking in terms of being able to assist those who would otherwise not be able to take on shifts and get to their employment to be able to be employed and feed their families. So thank you for the work and for your responsiveness to the Workforce Solutions request to engineer this work. At the time at Ramsey County, the chief person, the CEO at HM as host, had presented it as a concern. And so I'm so glad to know down the road that it has been continuing and that it has been able to alleviate some of the concerns that we have for getting people to work. I am also aware that we were discussing the same kinds of issues for northern Ramsey County, and I know there may be other patterns of this sort that may have come to your attention. 2 questions. First of all, thank you very, very much, and look forward to supporting this item. And secondly, can you tell me, based on the amount that is paid by the employers for employee transportation, whether that, or how much, what percentage of the service that covers? I'm assuming it is not covering 100% of the service that we're providing, hoping there are other opportunities, but I may be wrong, so I wanted to know that. And secondly, if there are other discussions, and it's not on this item, but if there are other discussions you could briefly talk about this kind of complementary assistance for, otherwise no transportation areas.
Madam Chair and Councilmember Carter, I will talk about fares first. This certainly, the fares that we charge for this service certainly does not cover the total cost of the service. The way the program was designed is we were operating the service in council vehicles that were used for council programs at other times of the day. And we charge the customer the standard fare, plus we charge the employer matching fare. So we essentially got 2 fares for the price of 1 because it was during an off time of the day. I mean, it was midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. So we were asking the employers to have that participation. As we transition into this design of the program, we are using a taxi company, and there are not fare boxes on the vehicle. And so at this time, we are foregoing the customer fare. We are still billing the employer that matching fare. And so we are basically charging them the standard fare that we would charge for a TransitLink customer, for a Metro Mobility customer to utilize it. And so from a fare perspective, it is essentially now standard dial-a-ride fare that we charge. Related to the opportunities, we've had conversations across the years about other opportunities. As I mentioned, when we inaugurated this program, we were talking with Northern Dakota County call centers and couldn't quite get anything worked out with them. As a matter of fact, it was interesting. We'd talk with call center management and get the ball rolling a little bit, and and lose track of it a little bit, and then they'd come back with a whole new set of management and come back and say, well, we need transportation, and we would start the ball rolling again. And that happened a couple of times, and we only have so much bandwidth to work through that with folks. And so we've kind of lost that thread as we've done other programs. But Northern Ramsey County was another opportunity, and we've talked, Ling Becker was a representative that we worked with who actually was within MTS years ago, who now was working up in that area. We've had conversations over time. Nothing has come to fruition. I think we continue to investigate these types of opportunities as they come up. The airport has been very willing to work with us and to partner and to really put in the time. It's a very high effort program overall for the number of trips, but it's really rewarding because, as I mentioned, it's new immigrants, it's limited English proficiency residents matching up with really very entry-level jobs. And so there's a lot of work on the employer side to talk with employees with multiple languages, so on. And we haven't gotten that worked out with any other employer locations. We're happy to continue these discussions. Service development at Metro Transit leads some of these kinds of conversations. Bix Produce in Ramsey County was one area where we've met with them a few times to try to find a transportation solution. This overnight opportunity here is unique for us. And so anyway, as I say, we work through these kinds of things as they come up, as people bring them to us, both at Metro Transit and within MTS.
Again, thank you for the painstaking
Sure.
efforts, and I do believe that that will reap benefits from it years to come.
Thank you. Additional questions or comments? Councilmember Cameron?
Sorry, you did pique my interest with Bix Produce because I've also worked with them in trying to figure out their situation. So are there other employers, what does that model look like for others if they express interest, particularly those who are looking at a workforce like what you're describing?
Madam Chair and Committee Member Cameron, typically what happens when an employer is interested in transit is they will reach out potentially to Metro Transit Service Development, potentially to Metro Transit Rideshare. I hope I'm getting that department name right. But the community, Metro Transit tends to spearhead those conversations, and with Bix Produce, that is what happened. And they brought in MTS because we run some alternate programs. We run our Metro Van Pool program, so on. And so those discussions we had with them, in that specific case, we were trying to develop the van pool opportunities. The difficulty is if there's very high turnover and very dispersed travel patterns, it gets to be very difficult. With this airport example, the airport is a very focused location, and we really focused what we could do at the original time with just 2 or 3 buses. And so we were doing east side of St. Paul because of the nature of the demographics of the community, and did a little bit of South Minneapolis, but it was really an east side of St. Paul venture for us. And so it worked out. But we do have those conversations, typically spearheaded by Metro Transit, bringing in MTS for the work that we do to see if we can come up with those solutions. And if they are out there, I'm very happy to have those conversations. They come up periodically, and we work through what the opportunities are.
Okay, thank you. Additional questions or comments? I just want to echo a couple of the comments of what a great program this is, and really to provide a service for like shift workers, off hours workers, and even if this becomes something that we use as an example for other businesses to say, whether it's introducing them to Van Pool or some of these other things that we have, that's just, I think it's a great way to kind of get people out on the transit system who might not otherwise have that opportunity and get them to jobs, which is very important. One question, you kind of mentioned it. So you have people that you are picking up in the wee hours, right? And how do we track how many of them take different modes of transit home? Or are they using this service to return home to?
Sure. Madam Chair, this service is only available when a fixed route solution is not. So if I was going from Lake and Hiawatha at 9 a.m. to the airport, we would say walk over the blue line, get on the blue line, go to the airport. If you're going from Lake and Hiawatha to the airport at 2 a.m., there isn't the blue line trip, or there might be or there might not be, depending upon the service schedule in any given area. So that's why the trips are overnight, 10, 11, 12 o'clock going home from the airport, 2, 3, 4 o'clock going to the airport primarily. The customers, we don't track how they go the other direction, but if they're utilizing our service to go one way, they likely are utilizing our service to go the other way. They're just doing it, for example, on the blue line at 10 a.m. if they're going to the airport at 4 a.m. on this dial-a-ride service. And so we really are probably getting both directions from them for this added service allows us to do, to do that. We don't track it, so this is entirely anecdotal, but, that's what I think is going on out there on the street.
All right, thank you. All right, a final call. Any questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2024-11.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Tony Carter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tyrone Carter. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, John. All right, now we are on to our final business item, which is business item 2024-14, which is the Metro Greenland Extension Amendment number 11. We have Jim Alexander here to present.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Jim Alexander, Project Director for the Green Line Extension. I have a PowerPoint I'm hoping they'll bring up. I thought before we go into the business item, I just wanted to show you some images of the project and like that making it away. Here we go. All right.
There we go.
So I just have a couple of images I wanted to share before we get into the business item itself. We had a pretty good year in 2023 with construction, but still advise as we get to the tunnel here and a few photos that we still have a lot to do. Thus far we have 16 stations on the project, and the civil construction is essentially complete, other than punch list items for 11 of those stations. We also have track work for LRT track all the way from Southwest Station, Eden Prairie, up to essentially the border between Minneapolis and St. Louis Park, so just short of Westlake. So that's about 10 miles of the 14.5 miles of line that we have track. Here's an image that was taken earlier in 2023 with the parking ramp, 450 stalls that adjoins the existing ramp, and this is where the bus loop for Southwest Transit and the station for LRT is kind of underneath that the ramp there. Another image just looking at the end of that station area. This is actually the first. You can tell there's a bridge there. That's a bus loop bridge. That's the first of our 29 bridges that we have built on the project. So we're essentially done with the bridge work on the project with the structural piece anyway. There's still a lot of systems work to be done, and that's been pretty active out in Eden Prairie. I'll be heading eastward. We've also gotten some trails done. So this is an image just short of the Minnehaha Creek in St. Louis Park, where we have a pedestrian bridge. On the left side in the middle is a freight rail bridge, which is kind of hard to tell, but there's a bridge there, and LRT bridge as well. And we now have a trail open from Blake and Hopkins to Lake in Minneapolis. So that's a pretty big achievement for us. It's been something I've been tracking closely, and we hope to have some more trail segments open yet this year in 2024. Just another sampling. Here's a sampling of the station, Louisiana Station here in St. Louis Park with Park and Ride in the foreground. And up above, you can't see it, but there's a freight rail track that connects with the M&S line that we've spoken about in the past with the CP's line that runs north-south. So the tunnel, I was out on Friday taking some snapshots for this meeting. And so what you're seeing on the left side is cell number 8, CW8. This had given us some headaches earlier, actually a couple of months ago, with some split sheets that we've now corrected. And we hope to do what is called a tremie pour in this cell. So it's full of water right now. It's about 20 feet deep. The overall excavation is about 40 feet deep, so 20 feet into the groundwater. The contractor will be placing concrete. Essentially, it's a plug that will be about 8 to 10 foot thick. And then ultimately, when that gets cured, the water will come out. And eventually, the contractor will start building the tunnel. I don't know if you can tell in the further on the left there, there's tunnel structure that is in place, and I'll have an image or two on that in a moment. And just off to the right is just kind of turning around and looking toward Westlake, and you just kind of see the challenges the contractor has to dig. There's a large excavator kind of navigating between those pipes, were called struts. Those essentially hold the sheet pile, or secant pile in this case, on one side and sheets on the other, hold them up so we can the contractor can build within. And I don't know if you can tell, but there's another little mini excavator down below there if you look kind of between those struts there. So a lot of detail work that's pretty time consuming. And inside the tunnel, so we do have quite a bit of the tunnel done. I think we've got 18 of the 30 cells, so we construct this in different cells. They're nominally about 100 foot in length, and 18 of those, essentially, we have tunnel structure in now. So the contractor's busy finishing up the concrete. Ultimately, we'll have track in here. Each of these contains one LRT track, so there's essentially 2 chambers, if you will, for the train to pass through. I just want to have a comment about the tunnel, because it's people are always wondering why we're looking at 2027 to get complete if you're really wrapping things up. We still have a long ways to go on this tunnel. We're really going through the most difficult part of the project right now. We're next to the Cedar Isles Condominium Association. There's a 10-story condominium building right adjacent and a parking ramp. And so that's something we've been navigating for several years now, and it's just, it takes time to get through this. And we anticipate overall the tunnel looking to get done in the 2025 timeframe. But until then, we still have a lot of work to do, and primarily in the Minneapolis side. And then further into Minneapolis, Bryn Mawr Station, this is shows a vertical circulation off in the distance on the right side. There's elevator and stair that take you over on a pedestrian bridge that essentially that lateral piece that goes over to the frontage road or to join over to the 394 area where we have a passenger drop-off. And big milestone we achieved in December, we opened up Glenwood Avenue. This is kind of a main thoroughfare from the west into downtown Minneapolis. Really pleased to have this done. This has been a lot of headaches. This is essentially three bridges. There's 2 roadway bridges and an LRT bridge in between. And this goes over the BNSF line. A lot of challenges with this, and luckily we are now done with structure, and we still have systems work to do, of course, as they come along. So then, Madam Chair, council members, I'll get to the business item per se. A little background on this item is that back in December of 2018, we entered into a capital grant agreement with the county. And this is both the county and the Hennepin County Regional Rail Authority. And that has been amended several times, and we're currently looking to expire. That agreement will expire at the end of this month, and so we need to update that. So we are looking to add $100 million to this grant agreement for the total of just over $1 billion. And the county is also considering this action. I think they have a committee action tomorrow, Tuesday, and then later on this month they'll have a full board action. So, Madam Chair, with this action, I propose the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute Amendment number 11 to the capital grant agreement with Hennepin County and Hennepin County Regional Rail Authority to add $100 million, bringing the total grant amount to $1,078,080,704, and to extend the grant term to January 31, 2025 to fund Metro Transit Green Line Extension project activities. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
All right, thank you, Jim. Councilmember Vento.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jim, thank you. I would just want to comment on how gorgeous the pictures are. Did you take all of them?
I took quite a few of them.
Yeah, they're great. It's fun to see, particularly that Glenwood Avenue picture. Just for clarity and transparency for folks who might be listening to this virtually and wondering about this motion and the mathematics with it, could you explain the source of the 100 million? We're not talking about 100 million additional dollars. We're talking about the 100 million out of the motion that we passed back in September, correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, council members, this relates to the resolution that was passed back in September. I think it's 2023-18. You have that reference in the business item. And so this is really a partial piece to get us to the end game. We are currently, where our estimate for the project is $2.86 billion, and this is consistent with what we've been reporting out since the third quarter, and actually since this resolution came forward. And so with that, I just advise that we are going through a review process with FTA that's been ongoing for several months now and look to conclude hopefully this spring, where we'll essentially have an official budget to that 2.86. And that 2.86 billion is something that we've identified and the feds are currently going over. And we have a pretty high degree of confidence that that's going to be our number with the revenue service in 2027, which we still continue to forecast for this project.
Madam Chair, Jim, thank you. You read my mind. My second question was going to be about the estimated budget and that FTA process. So thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Additional questions? Councilmember Chambliss.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Jim, it's good to see the progress over time. I did take a tour in the earlier stages, and it's great to see the progress. For that tunnel, how long is the tunnel?
Madam Chair, council members, I think it's about 2,300 feet in length, thereabouts. I usually just say roughly under a half mile, make it easy.
Oh, that's easier for me.
Yeah.
Okay, half mile, okay. Well, I'm glad that we're making progress and that the engineers and construction crew have been working very carefully in that really tight space. 2025 will be here before we know it, and we'll be very pleased to have this project completed.
Thank you. Madam Chair, council members, maybe just to add on to that. So that's essentially the civil construction. And as folks have been out in Eden Prairie, you may have seen a lot of kind of more quiet activity of putting in overhead catenary poles and cabling. Our systems contractor is progressing from the west to the east. It is still our goal to get things buttoned up all the way up to Beltline Station, and likewise from the main line at Target Field, bring that in towards the 21st Street station area so we can start testing that before the tunnel is ready to go. So that's still our program that we have in place, and we've been talking a lot with operations as well as our systems contractor and integrator contractor to make that happen. But still a lot of planning in place. But I think we're making pretty good progress, but I just want to caution, I've got a lot of scars on my back from this tunnel and specifically in the project overall. But where we're sitting right now, we do feel comfortable where we're at with that estimate and the timeline to get finished.
Thank you for your updates.
Councilmember Vento, and then.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very briefly, Jim, if this can be responded to briefly, what kind of efforts have to be maintained to preserve what's been constructed thus far as we wait for the 2027 opening? I would imagine, I mean, you look at those, like the pictures of the parking ramp and along the route. Are there special efforts that have to be made with that?
Madam Chair, council member, that's something that's been on our mind. Right now, the areas are essentially owned, so to speak, by the contractors, either by the civil or the systems. Ultimately, we'll take ownership of those, and they'll be our responsibility. We are looking at options of how to protect the areas, and we also have some provisions for in case we need a needs some kind of cleanup work to do, so we have that in our estimate to take care of things, because we're still a little ways away from 2027, and so we want to make things, hopefully keep things as fresh as we can for revenue service.
Thank you.
Additional questions or comments? Councilmember Cameron?
Just a simple question of what percentage of the systems contract is complete?
Madam Chair, I don't know if I necessarily have that number yet,
Okay.
but right off the top, but I'll tell you that the contractor has essentially installed overhead catenary and the cabling all the way up to City West, which is just on the other side of Highway 62, so all of Eden Prairie. So that's pretty significant. In terms of, reason why I can't really just give a number, because they also have been procuring and manufacturing, procuring equipment like traction power substations. So we've spoken about a storage change order we did some time ago. The contractor continues to get those things built, as long as signal houses, and they get stored inside in a local facility until they're ready to be installed. And so, right now, I think we have about 4 of the traction power sites completed. They're powered up, and hope to get more coming up, but things are kind of slowed down over the winter here for the systems contract. But maybe next time we come to visit, I could give you a little more update on that.
Okay.
Additional questions or comments? Councilmember Carter?
Yeah, I just want to say, Jim, I got to tour a little bit of Kenilworth last year, and I'm glad to see progress is moving on, and I just want to say thank you for all your hard work and late nights.
Thank you.
All right, agreed, and thank you very much. I mean, these pictures, I think, are just amazing, and it's very nice to see the pictures of the tunnel and to see inside, and to know how much work and time and effort's gone in to get to that point. So we always like to have those refreshers, I think, to see what we see. Any additional questions or comments? All right, seeing and hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2024-14.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Morales. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Tyrone Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Thank you, Jim. All right, that concludes our business for tonight, and we don't have agenda or any information items on the agenda, so we get rewarded for our very long meetings in December, which I appreciate you all being involved in. And with that, I think I would say items 1 and 3 go non-consent, but the second one can go consent. Everyone agrees?
Yeah.
Very good. All right, if there is nothing else, then we are adjourned.